Hey everybody, how's it going? It's Wednesday afternoon. It's the Wednesday afternoon stream, and I saw I had people watching me, so I decided to actually start. Making sure my mic is good. Yes, okay, we're here. It's been that kind of day. So how are you all? I see viewers, but I don't see any chat yet, so that's fine. If you don't want to talk, we're cool. We're gonna work on. I decided that instead of doing more shield work, I was kind of in the mood to brainstorm my diorama base a little bit. Hey there, Tister. Hello, Ewok. Hi. Hello, everybody. There's we got it. Missed him. Hello, everybody. This should be our last stream to get affiliate, guys. This should be it. This should get it. This is exciting. So yeah, so I'm gonna go and talk about essentially, I'm essentially going to brainstorm in front of you guys this diorama base because I have ambitious ideas for it, and I don't know. I've never tried anything like this before. So I've only tried something like this before, like on a I don't know, really a long time ago, and just with like sculpted water effects out of putty and stuff. And so I'm kind of brainstorming what I want to do, how I want to do it. It's a very complex base, and it's probably going to take a lot of work. so I'm just going to kind of talk to you about my conceptualization process and how I'm kind of thinking about putting it together, because it's also a tall base. I'm building it up. It's got 2 levels. It's pretty complex. So let's just go down to our live scene and get to it. Hold on. Hello. Oh, good. Well, hi, Liquid Nebula. Now you're here, and boy, look at what a mess my table is, guys. Oh dear. Yeah, it's a mess. So there it is. It's a complete and total mess. So because of course I was about a half an hour ago, and I'm like, oh, if I'm going to lay out the putty strips that are going to become the straps for the shield, then I should do that now. And then I started thinking about the basing, and I got my dead trees out, and then I was like, oh, I really want to kind of think about how I'm going to do the base. So yeah, mine is usually not this good. So I did polish up you can see how shiny it got. This shiny, the underside of the shield. I may just put kind of a little stud in here because I got a little bit of a bubble where the hollow was inside of this brass fitting. So I may just put a stud on there or something. Her arm's going to go across it, so it's not a big deal, but it might just help it to look a little bit nicer. But today I decided, instead of messing with that on stream, although we may mess with it a little bit later, but I decided I wanted to do the base, or at least I wanted to. I won't actually be able to do a lot of it, but I wanted to kind of block it in and figure it out, because this is monstrous. Hey, D. Clerman. Sup? So my concept for this base involves height and trees and water effects and vegetation and a dead guy, and that's before you even get to the monstrous lady on the horse. So I also realized, by the way, that I have to. In order to prime her, because I want to do a Zenith prime, just to get myself kind of thinking in the right direction on this, in order to Zenith prime her, I really have to have her put together so that I can, everything needs to be in place so that I can get the Zenith prime, which means I actually have to pin her cape on so that I can putty it in place, because it's really heavy. So I'm going to have to do pinning on this because it really doesn't slot in anywhere. It comes off of the one pauldron on the one side, and the other pauldron has a little fixture on the other side. And then to double my fun, I realized there's a big gap there. So I'm not only going to have to pin it, I'm going to have to paint it and putty it and then touch up the paint, to get this thing done. But I at least need to be able to pin it into place to get the Zenith Prime, especially on this cape, right? You want to make sure the shadows are lying correctly from the sword and everything across the inside of the cape. So I definitely have to have that on, so I have to pin that. Plus I have to pin her little wings on in order to get those in place so that the Zenith hits her correctly. So I have a lot of pinning ahead of me, and although I love to pin, you guys are going to get bored with it. So yeah, I pretty much have to pin her all together and finish that arm with that shield so that I can, hi, happy afternoon, everybody. Welcome, Lady Dyer. So I have a lot to pin before I can prime. And yes, I am going to prime over my paint job. Don't worry, I did it once, I'm going to do it again. It's okay. David gets so confused when I do this. He's like, but aren't you going to fill in detail? And I'm like, my paint is so thin. 2 layers of paint are not going to fill in any detail. I can prime over this model with impunity, at least twice more, before I start to lose detail. So yeah, I'm going to actually prime over her, and I'm probably going to go a little rosier with her skin tone when I do her actual skin tone, but we'll see, we'll see. I do want her face to be a focal point of the piece, so we may need to go quite warm with it. So my dead guy, here's my dead guy. Dead guy is Mr. Viking, and I'm in debate on dead guy. Let's get a little closer. Get a little closer to dead guy. Dead guy's pretty cool. Like, he's meant to be a standing Viking, but the nice thing about, hey there, Jay. The nice thing about Vikings or models that are chopped off at the waist naturally is that it's very easy to make them a dead model. So all I need to do is have him kind of sitting where he's kind of slumped into, kind of resting his back as he dies. I'm going to make some arrows that are coming out of him, probably one in the shoulder and one in the gut. His head, he has two heads, and one of them is really crappy and unhelmeted, but the helmeted one, the nice feature of this is it's naturally turned to the side, which means if I turn it to the front, it actually is tilted slightly, so it does look like his head is kind of slumping over sideways. Like, I can sculpt a little bit of a neck and get him slumped properly over. So what I really need to do for dead guy is I need to do that. I need to pin the head on and sculpt the neck, which is easy, just a little bit of green. He's a dead guy, so he's not going to get a lot of light or a lot of attention. I need to essentially sculpt a little bit of the leather that's draping. He's got a leather cuirass on. Essentially bring a little bit of that leather down onto this area to bridge that gap and make a natural bend at the waist. And then I've probably got to take the leather and bring it down back here, essentially sculpt a butt, although it's going to be a very simple butt. Really. And so fill in this area and bring the leather down, draping over on this area. So he's going to be kind of sitting in a depression. So I don't need to worry too much about the sculpting on this. But I think he'll make a very proper dead guy. He's holding an axe normally. And normally he's holding it up and active. I am in the process of debating whether he would still be like gripping the axe. Like, it depends if he's dead or dying, right? If he's just starting to die, then it makes sense that he would still be holding his axe in a death grip, literally, as the Valkyrie comes down to rescue his spirit and take him to Valhalla. So I could keep this, and this is double awesome because I'm planning to have him sitting in water. So the plan would be kind of that part of him is submerged, and maybe just the part like above the waist and a little bit of the axe is kind of sticking up in his head. He's kind of leaning back. And what I really want is a waterfall coming down on either side of him. Just a tiny little falls. And have him sitting in the pool at the bottom and do that. Like, ambitious as blazes. It's crazy. I've never tried anything like this before. But I thought it would be cool. And it was kind of just the vision I got of the whole piece. So if he's sitting in a pool of water, then his butt sculpting really doesn't matter. It's mostly going to be in shadow. Plus, there's going to be a slight overhang because she's going to be coming down with her horse and the lighting essentially manifesting on top of kind of the top of the falls, which is just above his head. So the total, let us kind of try to map this out for you guys, shall we? So I totally want, like, dead guy with face. Dead guy with face. I want like built up like cork around him. So I'm going to build up a thick layer of cork stones for him to rest against, and a little pool at the bottom. And then above him, she's going to be coming down. The horse is probably going to be like kind of like almost right above him. So like it's going to be I've got to build up several layers of cork here. So I can kind of guesstimate just by kind of holding it in place. I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, at least 5 layers of cork to build up to the proper height to get what I want. So at the end then, if I lay the horse down up here and I grab a ruler, I can kind of measure how tall this is going to be. So just measuring from like his butt up to the top of her head, it's 6.5 inches. So it's minimum 6.5 inches tall for this piece. It's going to be even more because I need a base of something to build up the pool. So that's probably another inch. So that's 7.5 inches tall. Plus, I have a giant tree I want to put up there, which is actually, I think, a little taller than she is. It'll probably be close to 8 to 8.5 inches tall for this total diorama. So it's going to be very vertical. And this is kind of a way to make a scene be more dynamic, right? Because when you're building vertically, when you build with height and not with a lot of width, that's more exciting for people to look at. It looks kind of precarious, right? Like ideally, I want her to be a bit precarious up there at the top, like she's you know, just coming down. Like, the focal point of the piece is going to be up quite high, but the Viking guy and the earthworks and the pool, I'm hoping, will be enough interest to, you know, to draw everything together. Because you can get in trouble if you're doing a really tall base with a model on the top, and there's not a lot going on underneath, right? So I'm going to be working just slowly with a lot of this. Here. So what I'm going to do, and I actually already cut these before the stream. So what I like to do, Otter Mama, I will be using a plinth. I'll probably be using a nice piece of burl like David used for his Dragon Rider. So he ordered a huge slab of beautiful dark brown burl wood, and he has a table saw. He is armed with a table saw, and he knows how to use it. So he did it just because he wanted specific wood for Dragon Guy. I wonder if I can, maybe I can still Dragon Guy and show you guys the wood. The wood is beautiful. Like, it's this big slab, and apparently you can just order that sort of thing on eBay. I think he got it on eBay. Let me see. Are you on there, guy? Are you on? Yeah, you are. Okay, I'm gonna bring it over. Ooh. Okay, so he's not solid on here. So I'm gonna hold him very gently and try not to break anything, and show you guys the burl. So the wood is like that, and it's got a nice natural, you know, break in it. But that brown there is the burl wood that he got. So it's quite thick. So it'll be a nice tall plinth. And if I'm going to put a plinth on something this tall, it needs to be a big plinth. Yeah, it's a beautiful, beautiful piece of wood. We were both like really happy when it came in. It's got some natural cracking in it too, but in general, it's pretty solid in this beautiful dark brown. So I'm going to put this back so I don't break anything, because my man loves me, but there are limits. And being a miniature modeler, I understand this. Miniature painter. There we go. Stay, Dragon Guy. All right, I think I managed to do that without breaking anything. It's a new record. So yeah, so the thing is, normally I don't like really thick plinths, but this thing is massive. It's going to be really big. So you can go with a thicker plinth on it because it's massive. So having a plinth that's like, I think that was about, let's see, do I have a piece of wood over here that's even that thick? I think it's about that thick. So for a big horse like this, that plinth is nothing. Like, and for a huge diorama where the horse isn't even like, you know, the horse is even up here, that's really not a lot of width at all. Especially when it's a pretty piece of wood. I collect plinths, can you tell? Hey Jetta, hey Kironiko, hello everybody who came in the meantime. Yeah, hang out with me. This is our last like stream thing before we hopefully get Twitch affiliate. So makes me happy. Yeah, so I was just talking about base work today because I thought I would actually conceptualize a bit. And I really wanted to start getting dirty with this because I'm going to be using the wood putty that David uses, the epoxy putty that's the PC lumber. His base for his Dragon Guy that I showed you, above the base above the plinth, was made with cork and the wood putty. Pretty much just grabbing it, smushing it together until he had shapes that he liked. And I'm going to be doing a lot of that. Yeah, Rex. Yeah. For sure. Bases are fun, and I have some awesome pieces to do this with. Plus, we'll be doing water effects, so it'll be fun, right? I have some ideas. I have some sneaky ideas about how to make my waterfall work. I haven't seen a lot of waterfalls that I really liked, so I'm going to try to make a waterfall that I really like. Or at least a waterfall that I'm like more or less satisfied with, because sometimes it can be really hard to make a good looking waterfall when you're working with static effects. So, but I have some ideas. So yeah, so I'm going to be using cork and PC lumber to kind of cobble together organic shapes, but I'm going to be using, because I'm going to be setting this down on a plinth, I am actually starting with a base of plastic card. That's what actually led to me getting off on this, going down this rabbit hole this afternoon, was that I dug out my appropriate base plastic card. I actually have thicker plastic card than this. But in retrospect, David pointed out I was better off to use this stuff because it is like fairly thick, you can see. It's a 0.60, I think. Yeah, 0.6 inches, or 1.5 millimeters thick. 0.06 inches and 1.5 There it is. So, and by plain, it means it's not textured, and it's evergreen, and it's sheet styrene. So if you want this stuff, if you are building custom bases, this is your baby. It really is easy to use. Yeah. Hey, Gridlock. How's it going? So yeah, so I'm starting with this plastic. Mostly because I didn't want to start working with the cork, which is very crumbly and soft. You know, it's very bendy. And so I didn't want to start building up things without something solid to work on. And I didn't want David to cut a sheet of burl for me until I knew exactly how much I needed, because, you know, you're messing with a table saw. You don't want to have to do any more cuts than you have to. So for that, so what I decided to do was that I laid her and the Viking and everything out on a piece of plastic card, and I kind of went, okay, well, it's at least this big, and I'll probably end up cutting and shaving away parts of it after I lay up on it. Like, at most, this is how big I want it. At most. And it probably will shrink. And this is for the base level. And I also have another piece that I'm going to cut to be the next level up, because I don't know how much flat I want, but I definitely need a layer of something in there to like hold everything together. Cork is really, because cork is soft and because I'm working with metal models that are very, very heavy, I need to make sure that I've got enough stability in this space that it's just not going to crack and just fall in half. So by reinforcing it with the PC lumber, which does dry very hard, carvable, and reinforcing it with, you know, plastic for the couple of levels, surreptitiously, like, you know, hidden under cork, I'm hoping I can build a structure that's strong enough to hold this dang horse, which is so darn heavy. Especially she's heavy too, and she's got this massive metal cape, which is heavy. You know, this is going to be a very top-heavy piece. I'm going to have to build this base smart to make sure that it doesn't want to break under the strain of holding this. And the nice thing about cork, the thing that works for you, is that you can sink a pin all the way through it. You know, it's not anything you're gonna ever like break a bit off in or anything. You can just take a piece of brass rod and pretty much just punch it right through. So you can punch that right through several layers and then sink it into your base layer to help hold everything together. So that is an advantage of the softness of cork that makes it easy to work with. So I'll probably be like, when I'm building this up, I'll probably build up my base layers, and then I'll sink a wire in roughly where I want it, and leave it just sticking out at the top while I doctor everything. So, all right, let's see here. So the other thing that I want to do is to do 2 layers. So there's the dead guy layer, and this will also give us a good base for water effects. Plastic, and so not seepable, so to speak. I'm going to have to use more plastic card to build a container for it once I get down to the nitty-gritty of everything, so that I can hold in the pool, or do something else to somehow hold in the pool of water effects that I want him to be sitting in. And I need to ask also, like, how much movement I want in my water, or am I just going to go with a pool effect and maybe add some water effects over the top of the pour? I haven't decided that yet. But I have in mind a little pool with dead guy sitting in it. Dead guy. For those who came in late, this is dead guy. We're going to have to sculpt him a new butt. He naturally comes in 2 pieces, which is great because it's really easy to make him sitting by just tilting him up and giving him a butt. And then he's got his head that we can kind of turn to the side and leave leaning so that he looks like he's dying. And he's got his hands still holding onto his axe. So all of this is great stuff because it fits perfectly with a seated model just as well as it does with a standing model. And so we'll have him sitting in a shallow pool down here. Originally, I had thought to have him sitting in shallow water so that it actually covered all of his legs. And so that you can see that, you know, paint his legs, pour it, so you can see the legs, you know, and the bottom part of him under the water. That would be kind of cool. And I still don't know if I'm going to do that. I don't know if I just want to put him in really shallow water or if I do want to do a significant pool, which could be fun. So I was pretty much laying him out, figuring out how much room I needed, right, to make a pool on the bottom here. Because I want built up banks here. And this has all got to go into a rock formation that goes up that the horse is alighting on. So that much I needed for sure. I knew that I wanted kind of you know, kind of a cutaway, like tree roots and everything, and tumbled down dirt that's been eaten away by the water a little bit. So kind of like a steps, you know how waterfalls go, right? But kind of steeper steps. And I knew that I wanted kind of the bank to be overhanging him a little. Yeah, I know it can creep. But I have tricks in mind. I have some sneaky tricks in mind. Some things to try. Possibly, yeah, resin pour, but I also have another idea, like liquid nebula, that I've never seen anybody do, so perhaps it's foolish. I'll find out, won't I? I do have another idea for the water, though, which I will try before I do resin pour, just to see if it can work. The nice thing about resin pour is that it definitely does give you that smooth, and it gives you kind of that water distortion. Yeah, Rax, but you know, the easy way to deal with that would be to like just do the bottom, right? To like pour the water till it's just up there, and then put this on top and try to disguise it that way. So that could work. Like, I'd have to sculpt the leather to disguise the fact that, you know, to disguise this join. But I could probably do that. So that's assuming I resin pour, which I've never done before. I'm less concerned with the resin pour. I have a couple, like I said, there's another idea I have had that I thought of instead of doing a resin pour. Yeah, I mean, why bother? I mean, if you're not pushing yourself. I've never done resin pour, but David has done it a lot. So we have the materials to do it. But I'm not certain I want to mess with it. So I've been thinking about other ways to get the effect I want. Yeah, I think, Rax, if I did a resin pour, I think the way to do it would be to sculpt this area with a little fringe of leather coming down to hide the join here. Pretty much make sure it looks about right. Pour the resin to cover it, and then essentially sit this guy right on top of it and sculpt it, you know, put more green stuff in to disguise the fact that it doesn't actually, you know, I put it on afterwards. It should work okay, though. I mean, I can probably disguise it quite well. And that would eliminate the creep problem. Except for, you know, you'd get a bit on the bark on the sides, but again, I don't mind that. I can sculpt over that. I mean, creep is only a problem if you want to do it and be done. Creep is not a problem if you're willing to take some green stuff at the end and bring your edges down a little bit to disguise the creep, in my opinion. So it's all like, you know, how you going to do it. I mean, David managed to do an amazing job on his water effects and not get too much creep on his mermaid. So I think together, my boy and I can figure it out. I think we can maybe get it to work. We'll see. But yeah, that's plot number one, right? So I need to right away build up like various stuff. I need to build up at least probably with green stuff or wood putty, a sandy base, a sandy bed for the waterfall in the stream. I want to use cork and wood putty to put together some rocky forms. I may end up green stuffing over a lot of my cork because I've got some lovely trees here. And I like the stone texture, kind of the granite stone texture we've got. And I was thinking that if all the rocks in this area were that type of stone, that would make sense. In which case I need to make a stamp of some of this stuff, or just use these as a stamp before I prime them, in order to give appropriate texture to rocks. So in that case, I might want to use the wood putty or green stuff skinned over the cork to get more of a realistic texture, less obviously cork, shall we say. Yeah, David is at this point a pro on water effects, so I've got a water effects pro in my corner, goofs. But yeah, that was my one of my ideas, was just to submerge the bottom half and make sure that I could just put the top half on top. So these are lovely, and they're an old miniatures manufacturer, been around for forever. I don't even know if they're still out there. This one. So they're multi-scale, so they're not made to be any particular scale. You could use them with almost anything, although I think they go very well with the 54mm scale, and that's probably what he would like to see them used as, you know, what he sculpted them for. Although you could also use them for 72, or even probably for 120. They've got some really nice bark texture on them. Let's get close. They're really realistic. Some of the best sculpted dead trees that I've seen, actually. There are trees on my walk that I go on every evening out here in California that look just like this. Oh, good. Yay, Liquid Nebula. Thank your wife for telling me I'm not crazy with that idea. Because, yeah, I would actually really like to submerge the legs. To paint them a little bit darker and greener as if they're underwater, and then just do the resin pour. I think that would be fun. Plus, it's going to be a very, like, dark and light piece. Like, it's going to be kind of like an afternoon in the forest, kind of, you know, dark green, blue ambient. All right. So, now we've got Dead Guy. We've got an overhanging ledge. Now, on the overhanging ledge, obviously we need to have a stream coming out and dropping off the end. There. And I think these dead trees are going to be my friends here. I think this one's going to be over here. And I think this one's going to be over there. And that almost by itself suggests a little meandering stream. So I will need to build up a little bit more. But I'm going to have two sandy banks or mossy banks up here. I figure I have to have like some more stones. I wanted originally to have a fallen stone that was essentially bridging over the little creek. Up here. And that is what I want the horse on. So I will have to build that out in putty and plant the horse in it. And I think he will fit pretty well. I'm probably going to turn him. Originally, I wanted the longer tree toward the other side, but then as I worked with this, just the way that he's turned, when I did the longer tree, it really interfered with the horse. So I want to kind of... And you want to not like do... Like, I don't need this entire thing. Like, a lot of people might make just a really long bank back here. But the problem with that is that then you have all this stuff that doesn't mean anything for the story. So you almost need to get crowded up here. And really get in the horse's face, so to speak. And you might have to turn some things, different angles. One thing I'm thinking about doing is to tilt this so that the tree is more falling to the side. Like, more tilted to the side out of here. And just building up more stuff going down to the water. So, ideally, what we get is we get two trees and horse and rider. So the trees at that point become a frame for the horse and rider, where there's, elevation. Hey, Sentimental. Hey there, Daffodweir. Yeah, I'm playing with toys today. I'm telling people about my plans for the base on this. And we're probably going to build up some layers of it, because I do actually want to... build out some base cork layers on this, or on this one, and then cut it to be the appropriate size. So yeah, we are building, sorry, on this one. So yeah, that's what we're planning. That's what we're plotting and planning. So the fallen stone is going to be the hard part for me, I think. Bridging over the creek. But it's also going to make kind of a shelf over Dead Guy, like kind of a shelter over him. I don't know. I kind of wanted him a little bit in the shadow. So that he was kind of hidden when you first looked, and then you look a little closer and you see him, right? Because you're gonna see her first. I mean, let's face it, giant Valkyrie horse on big thing. You're gonna be like, oh my gosh, like giant big horse, and then you're gonna like maybe go, oh, water, and then you're gonna, oh, Dead Guy on water. Yeah, that's what I want. I want the Easter egg. I want the Dead Guy to be more like an Easter egg. So yeah, so that putting that falling stone right at the top of the waterfall lets me kind of shade, make parts of him in shadow. So that will be fun. That can be cool, dramatic. Because remember, I want very dramatic lighting on this in addition to everything else. It's gonna take forever. This project is gonna take forever. I just know it. So all right, let us kind of figure out how much plastic card we need to hold a horse and two trees above a waterfall. So if we've got Dead Guy down here, roughly Dead Guy, then we've got this, and this leaves us about half, maybe about, kind of mapping it out. And go slow. I mean, that's always my rule when I am treading in uncharted territory. And I am like, I have no idea what I'm doing. All I'm doing is just kind of figuring it out. I will go slow. I don't mind if the back of this piece projects a little bit further out than this, because I can always build cork out back there. This is just to pretty much give me a solid base to sit on the plinth. So I think I'm going to cut this. And when in doubt, leave yourself a little extra. Like, so if I want this to be over the top, I think I'm going to cut it right around. Keeping a little Sharpie marker around really helps. I think I'm going to cut it around there. It doesn't have to be regular because I'm going to be carving it anyway. I don't want squares. I don't want squares sticking out of my base. Oh my gosh. Yeah, Otter Mama. Oh, Dead Guy is a old Romeo Viking model that I had sitting around. In fact, his shield is now going to go on the Valkyrie and help make her a Viking. So this is the dude, and he's pretty cool. He's I forget what they call him, what his actual title is. Oh, Anglo-Saxon warrior, just really easy. So I had him just lying around because I kind of liked him. I liked certain aspects of him. But then I realized he would make an even better Dead Guy. And it means I get another thing out of my miniatures boxes in the closet. So I'm using 2 models. I'm getting 2 models done for the price of 1. So that's Dead Guy. So Dead Guy is there. And the great thing about plastic card is that really, I don't even use a cutting mat because I don't cut all the way through on one stroke. I just cut it and then bend it and snap it. So I'm going to make it more or less straight across. And if I didn't get it quite enough, then I'll do a second score along that same line, just pressing a little harder. The top of my desk is also glass underneath the paper, so that helps. And the nice thing about really thick plastic card is that usually when you bend it just a little, it'll snap. Ta-da! No saws or clippers needed. And it cuts pretty clean. So you're good. So now I've got an upper part. Now I can grab my cork and kind of figure out how many layers I need. Now this is also a snappable item, by the way. This big thick cork, which I think I got at Hobby Lobby. I'm going to cut these a little bit bigger than I think I'm going to need. And once you cut it, if you're careful, you can bend it and get a rough break. A rough is okay because it's cork. So I want to get, and I'm just going to throw myself in and start gouging things because otherwise I'll just freeze. Sometimes when you're trying a new project and it's a lot of stuff that you haven't done before, mostly I just want to see how high I need to get here. And you haven't done, if it's something that you haven't done before, it is so easy to get so intimidated and you just kind of freeze and you spend more time thinking about it than doing it. So the answer is honestly to just jump in head first. Just start snapping things and breaking things and cutting things and throwing things together. And then as it develops, you start getting excited about it. And then you're not afraid anymore. So that's the way to get over it. Let's see here. Up. Alrighty. So I am looking at Dead Guy is now he will be a little bit higher because I do want a sandy bed for him to be on. Keeping that in mind, I might not need as much cork as I thought. This is going to be leany. I do need, because I don't want to go up too high. I'm going to zoom in and tilt a little bit and see if I can get more for you guys to see. All right, so you can kind of see there. I'm trying to make this there so you can get kind of a perspective. So when I draw a line on his head, it's just under the lip of this plastic. So I don't know. That might be enough because I need to build up a little bit more of the stream bed. I need the fallen boulder. I do need to kind of I maybe need one more layer because I need to make sure there's kind of a dip there where the water comes down, and I can't be interrupted by this when I get there. I'll probably have to cut a notch in it so that we can make... But we do have 3 tiers, and I'm going to have to mess these up a bit. But we do have 3 tiers of level to build down to make the waterfall come down. So this is not bad. I'll probably mostly use the plastic card back further, cut a notch out of it, kind of use it just to make this level-ish, mess with it a lot. Hello, David.
Hey.
I'm messing around. I'm diving in. I'm talking about how you're going to help me with my water effects because you're so awesome that way. He's like, silence. Although I already have Liquid Nebula's wife tell me that my idea is a sound one and she works with resin.
Well, that's good.
Yes. Um, so as far as time frame, yeah, I don't know, guys. Like when I do a project for myself like this, a competition level project, I just really have an idea of how I want it to look. And so the question is, how long will it take to get there? I mean, I am taking some shortcuts. I am using, pre-made trees and rocks to help with my scenic stuff. That will help a lot. We also have some paper plants that I was thinking would be good to kind of be around the pool that he's in. Some of those. So that will help too, but I have to paint them. So yeah, I don't know. If I had to guess, man, I don't even want to really guess though. I think it'd take me about, to build this out with putty and cork and green and, texturing stuff. Maybe even some Fimo. Maybe some Fimo green. I might use some Fimo and green for this. 10 hours? A little less? 6 to 10 hours? Depending on how fast it comes together. Because obviously there's going to be time for stuff to set, time for stuff to dry, all this sort of things. And I'm going to do it like pretty much a little bit at a time, right? So what I probably start with is the pool. Like build from the ground up. So start with the sandy bottom for his pool that he's sitting in. Build that up. Build up the banks. Get some nice rocks and stones on the base, on the banks to really make it a little more dynamic ground down here. Like it's, it's surrounded by stones and a little creek. Then I need to work on this tier of waterfalls. Yeah, sci-fi is I was thinking about that when I saw your giant vehicle. Yeah, that is actually not my strength. Like the vehicle, the way to do it is airbrush racks, most likely. Like you would get a lot more mileage out of maybe even like if you know Justin McCoy from Secret Weapon, maybe even shooting him an email, see if he can give you some tips. Like I am certainly not against I'm gonna flatten this out, guys. Certainly not against referring my friends. I don't think Justin does much with his Patreon anymore. Aaron Lovejoy is probably your next best guy. He does a bunch of Infinity, and he's done a bunch of sci-fi for that sort of thing. So yeah, but yeah, it's not mine. Hi, hello, Mighty Garrett. Oh, okay. Sweet. Well, great. Then she can help me too if David abandons me. Thank you, Liquid Nebula. But, I mean, yeah, hourly. I can't even think. I guess it helps me, guys, when I'm doing a big project like this to not even think in terms of a guess of it. Like, I'll keep track of how long it takes. I'll start tracking now, essentially. Since I've only pretty much worked on this on stream, I can just start tracking it in my hours tracking book. But I think I'd be more likely to just work on it. Like, if I put a time frame on it, then I might feel it rushed or constrained, which is poisonous for me when I'm doing something that I really love. So for me to continue to love the project, I think I just have to go at my pace and not worry about how many hours. At a guess, at least 80 hours. How about that? At least 80. Just because I'm trying to do so many things I haven't done before with the basing. And I'm also trying to, make sure that I do like dramatic lighting on the horse and all this kind of thing. So I'm also working on like color ambient. I want a cool blue and green, dark blue and dark green shadow ambient, like you're in deep forest. And then you've got that pillar of light coming down and illuminating her and falling a little bit on the pool down here. So I've got to also work on lighting in addition to this very complicated base, and then the water effects. So it's just going to be some work. It's just going to be some work. And there's probably going to be a lot of extra green stuff and little details, because the things that I most hate in a big diorama base are when you just throw a bunch of cork at it and you leave it. So I want to put some extra like tree roots and some little details in here and there. I might dig into my old 54s and see like if I have another Viking weapon that I can throw on the base, suggest an opponent, or just a weapon that he casts down, something like that, right? Oh wow, interesting. Yeah, I could see how resin could be a gap filler if you are really good with it. Hey Plater, how's it going? We're talking about my base for horse and pallet and Valkyrie lady. Here, let me move my setup back since I moved it. There we go. So, hey, it looks much more orderly now, guys. It was really bad at the start of the stream. It was everywhere. But yeah, so what I'm trying to do up here is I'm trying to create a pretty, like a dynamic stream bed. And I'm probably going to end up cutting off part of this, because if you think about it, I really just need the water, just a little bit of a stream to suggest the water. I need enough room for my big slab of fallen rock to project out here so that the horse can stand on it. I need, but I don't need all this back here, right? This is where I said that I'm making a bigger base than I necessarily need. So unless there's action back here, this piece should just be cut off, just destroyed. Like, even if it's at a diagonal, that would almost be better. Irregular bases tend to look much more visually interesting than non-irregular bases, than square bases. So, and I can always reconcile the rectangular shape of the plinth underneath if I build out over the edges a little bit. I don't have to be diagonal by the time I get down there. So, this is all fun and experimental, right? Busted shields are great. Yeah, I don't know if I have another 54mm shield. I mean, I could build one, but... Oh, hey, thanks, 20-Sided TV. Thank you for the raid. Hey, everybody. We're talking about basing today. I'm building a big diorama base for my, my Valkyrie lady on her horse. And so I'm talking about building a waterfall, and I've got a dead Viking down here. So pretty much we're at the very earliest stages of trying to conceptualize how we're going to do this. Oh, thanks, Chef of Love. Thanks for the follow. This is my last stream, new people, for me to get Twitch affiliate finally. So it's exciting. Yay. I don't know if I stream all that often, probably once a week, but I might do some ninja streams here and there too. I'm Anne. I work for Reaper Miniatures. I also do, this is one of my own projects. It's a big metal slug of thing from Andrea Miniatures, one of their fantasy pieces. So yeah. So we're kind of talking about challenges and like base shaping on a big level. We're looking at the macro level at this point. We're looking at basic forms and shapes and how I can mix this up and make it more interesting, because just doing a bunch of blocks and rectangles is really boring. But that's what you start with. That's what you start building with, right? And then you start trimming things down and making things a lot more interesting. Like here, I was just saying, I'm probably going to cut a notch and put a bunch of like tree roots and things coming down. I have some resin trees that I'm playing with. No miniature Viking shields. Full-size shields and Viking shields, but no miniature Viking shields. Yeah, obviously I have one, right? Like, because I'm putting it on her. She gets, I took Dead Guy's shield and I'm converting it to go on my my Valkyrie guys, because otherwise she looks very boring. Like, this is a great viewing angle for her, but when you get to her off arm, it's not as exciting because she's facing away. So I want to put a shield on her so that I can put some really, really crazy freehand on her. Some awesome Celtic network, in fact, which I think my reference book for that came in the mail today. Thank you, Rohan, for the recommend, because I have books on Celtic network, but not the fundamental principles behind how to build it, and this is a book on that. For those of you who are on my Patreon and thus have access to my Discord, Rohan posted that book up on the Discord. So yeah. So this is a really big project for me. I'm doing some serious conversion on it. I'm doing a serious base work on it. I'm doing a little bit of sculpting on it. You know, I'm trying to create a scene that's dramatic, that has a Valkyrie coming down to take the soul of the dead Viking up. And I like Vikings, so this is my own little happy project right now. I do work also on a lot of busts for myself, and I've probably got some commission models that you guys will see on stream every once in a while here on my Painting Big channel, that I need to get working on them, so why not? Why not stream and talk to you guys while I do it? Alright, so this is what the project is that we are working on. So, let's see here. I think I'm actually going to take a chance. I'm going to put down Viking Lady take down, Valkyrie down, stay. Alright. So I'm going to take my pen, and as always having a Sharpie or a Sharp, this is just a Sharpie pen, I can look at this, and I think this is about a correct angle. So I want probably to cut it about here and go out to here. So that way And I can also mark, this is tree number 1. This is little tree number 2. So I can draw around. Doesn't matter if I make marks on the plastic card since I'm going to be painting and sculpting stuff over it anyway. Alrighty. Stone. Those are roots. I think I'm going to like put the little roots in so that I know what angle I had them at. Though I can always change that. And it's pretty evident there where the roots are. So good. So now I can see that I need that to be there. Hey there, Skelsey. Hey. Yeah, I'm working on slowly. I pretty much just threw a bunch of slabs of stuff down to start on the base for my Valkyrie. And we've got Dead Guy sitting down here, and he is what will be a pool of water. I wonder, hey guys, do you know, actually, Liquid Nebula, do you know if, actually David might know too, but if you make a shell of green stuff, can you do a resin pour into that, or will the green stuff interact with the resin?
I don't know, but my guess is it would be fine.
It would be fine, because I was thinking about just making a green stuff shell to hold the pool that I want Vikings sitting in. Just that would be an easy way to do it. I wouldn't have to do all the whole blocking off the sides with plastic card, and I could have it in a regular shape. That was kind of my thought.
Yeah, I mean, green stuff is not porous.
Yeah, Liquid Nebula says it will be fine. That's what I thought. I didn't know. See, this is how much of a noob I am on resin, guys. So I've never used it because I didn't like some of the old resins where they really had a bunch of fumes and felt it just was bad. I try to avoid like toxic crazy resin
goo.
Fumes. Yeah, toxic goo. I avoid toxic goo at all costs. All right, and now
I've learned this from many games.
Yeah,
you should avoid the toxic goo.
You should avoid the toxic goo. Don't stand in the fire, and avoid the toxic goo. Yes, exactly. So another thing that we can do here, I just wanted to make sure I've got so we've got our rock smacked up. We've essentially decided we're going to cut off the base back here, and I have a line to represent that. Now I want to look at, I've got a waterfall. So I want to cut a notch in this so that I can start bringing the water down toward Dead Guy. So let's just kind of do an irregular notch that works with these shapes of the trees. See, so we've got a triangle here, and we can just cut a notch out of it. And I may end up making this notch even broader. I'm not sure. But what it does give us is it gives us a little bit of height and a little bit of a start to start dropping the water level down, essentially, here. Especially if I raise these up just a little bit on some putty or on some cork of their own, then I can have the water level be higher, and then it'll go down a little more when I sculpt this dip here before it goes over the edge. So those are the marks that I have, and I'm doing them so that I can essentially cut out these pieces, the front notch and the back, and trim off those areas. Art and Glow. I haven't heard that. Art and Glow resin. Yeah, I've never heard of that one. Have you heard of that one, David? Apparently, fumes can be dealt with a normal N95 mask. And I have an airbrushing mask. I think that's okay for that. I'll write that down. Thanks. Art and Glow. Cool. Thanks. Thanks for the recommend. We have resin experts on the stream. This is so awesome because I'm not one. So, okay, now I can take my little treelets out. Actually, you know what I can do? I can grab a proper Sharpie, and I can put an arrow on them that shows toward the center. Center. So when you're doing this stuff, even if you've got like little tracings and stuff, it never hurts to remind yourself of the shapes that you've worked out. So this also goes towards center. Center. So now I'll remember my positionals of my trees. And that's great because this might rub off. It's not a proper Sharpie marker, so I just wanted a little bit of a tracery to work with. So now I can take my knife, and just like we did before, here, Dead Guy, you're going to move out of the way for a moment. Just like we did before, we can kind of draw a line. And I'm not going to draw it as jagged as I did here. I'm going to draw it more straight so that I can break it. And then I can just use my knife to carve it into a more interesting shape. Yeah, thank you very much, Liquid Nebula. So we'll start here, and we'll just pretty much go straight across. And that's not a bad cut. And we'll go back and we'll rescore it so that we can cut it a little bit deeper. I need glasses on is what I need to be. I need to be able to see the line I'm carving. That might help. There we go. Now I can see it. All right. Let's get a little bit closer. And the great thing, this is 1.5 thick millimeter plastic card, by the way, guys. It's thick enough to make a pretty firm base. It's not going to bend easily, but it's also thin enough to do this score and break trick very easily. So, ta-da! Easy! Easy peasy. Oh, and now we have extra plastic card that we can use to build something for a small base. And this is where you can just use a hobby knife because, you know, plastic card is really easy to do that if you want to tool it around, cut some notches in it, make it more irregular like it was before. Or you can just use your knife or maybe a jeweler's saw to do big cutouts on it and then just use basing materials to sculpt over the edge and make it more irregular that way. It's up to you. I think I want to do at least a couple of notches to remind myself that I want a more irregular background. So it's pretty easy to carve this stuff. It's another nice thing about plastic card. And some of this you might need to carve a little bit at a time to get it to go. But it should come together pretty quick. Like, that's the great reward of working with this sort of material and the cork, is that you can have something form up and start to show a shape pretty fast. Which for those of us who, you know, who are instant gratification types is gratifying. I'm going to fling plastic card everywhere. My dog will be covered in it. Good enough, really. I've still got the suggestion of what I want to do there, but I definitely want to take off this corner. There. That's a little better. Just making it a little bit irregular so that it doesn't look, so it looks more natural. All right, so that's going to go off the back, and if that's going to go off the back, and this is what I want this to be, that means that some of this stuff back here can come off also. And in this case, it's just an easy score and break with the knife because cork is so easy to break. And in this case, it's good that it's easy to break because it's going to let us do some nice irregular shapes. I've even got some score marks still on these guys that I gotta take off. But I don't want too many regular scores, so you can just crumble it. And always save your leftover bits of cork because these are so good for rocks. They're just so great for rocks. Especially when it's flat on the bottom, you just put it on a base and it's a rock. And if you feel like it's too spongy, just put a thin layer of PVA glue over the top or white glue, and it'll solid up, and then you can paint it really nice. So glue is a good way to harden up your cork a little bit, just a little bit. All right, so we got this, we got that. I want to take off some of this. You can use a fingernail and gouge it. It's really easy. I want to leave a little bit, though, because remember, we need the back side of this to work. So what I'll end up doing is filling, still using a lot of this, but I'll end up like filling in this area probably with putty. Or I'll might sculpt some roots and things and make that an overhang. It really depends on how much I want to introduce. Hey there, Ishtar Duzzy. How's it going? Do some research on thinner resins. That way the bubbles have time to rise. That way the torching process is not so painful. Art and Glow is amazing, but thicker. Good to know. Yeah. I'm not sure what brand David uses. He's working right now, so we're trying not to bug him too much.
Resin?
Yeah.
I use the AK for whatever I've done, but
AK,
I
yeah.
haven't done that much.
No. But what you've done has been very good, so. All right, so I want this to be irregular. I don't want square corners, really. I know that this is going to be coming down onto a squarish or rectangular plinth, but I want to keep pretty natural forms going down to there. I don't want to have to worry about this. This looks really artificial and not so great. So we're going to break it off. And you can, one of the things I like to do with cork is to use a knife to just break off small pieces of it. So if you really want to make sure that it's kind of on an angle like this, then you could do just like I'm doing here and just use the tip of a hobby knife to slowly chip away at the cork and make it come down at more of an angle. And if you see any interesting shapes like this, like long cylindrical shape, I kind of like this one. I could suggest a tree root with this, so I'm going to leave that, but I'm probably going to try to cut away at things on either side of it to chip away at them. And using the tip of a hobby knife lets you kind of do that very delicately remove material. Here, let me zoom in on you. There we go. So I want to keep this to maybe take it and turn it into a trailing root. So I've got to kind of excavate around it, and you can just very gently with the tip of your hobby knife just excavate little bits of cork without breaking off the major part if you're very delicate. So you can really customize cork in general. You don't, this is flat right now, but it's not going to stay flat. Let's see here. Good. Well, I'm glad that you got time to tune in. Yeah, I'm going to be doing probably this stream will probably be around like Wednesday. I'll probably keep. I'm not sure on Tuesday because I do need to make time for the Patreon stuff and for commissions and things. But I do want to stream at least once a week, and it'll probably be a regular Wednesday stream, and then I may throw one in just whenever I feel like it. If I'm working on a project where I feel like I'd like some company while I while I batter my way through the drudgery of pitting everything or, doing whatever. And I'll try to work on this project on Wednesdays, because that means I'll keep working on it. It means that no matter what, I'll keep working on this project. Ideally, I'll work on it at other times too. But you can also just kind of gouge it. You can make some nice irregular, like torn away shapes that way, which I like. I just really like how versatile cork is. And its softness is the thing you have to learn to work around, but once you figure out how to work around it, it's just so great for building up things. And the other thing we'll be working with is the PC lumber, which is the epoxy that David uses, that I really like now. That's good for this sort of sticking together and making irregular shapes out of cork. And it's also not bad for sculpting things. He made me a column for my Frost Giant Queen out of it. So let me grab that. I'm so glad I haven't glued this base back onto there. Let me go up and zoom out a bit. So I built an archway I am building an archway for my Frost Giant Queen to stand up against. And he did this pillar out of this wood putty. And it was super easy. And then it is just soft enough that you can use an X-Acto knife and like carve into it. So I was carving cracks in it. So yeah, I've been doing okay, Ishtar. Actually, I'm kind of happy. RPG Ghost, it's cute. So I've been actually pretty excited that everything is like my Patreon's doing good, and I feel like I'm actually making enough money to keep Tyrion dog treats. Barely. Her dog treats are expensive, and her squeaky balls are bloody expensive. I just ordered squeaky balls. Actually, they're waiting in they're either out on our doorstep or down in the UPS locker downstairs. But I had to order her new squeaky balls. She's dangerously close to destroying the last one. So I'm like, the Patreon's doing well, and I'm working on projects I like, and it's good. It's going good, actually. And I like this streaming thing. Like I'm more and more I'm happy that I started streaming for Reaper and got comfortable streaming, because I do really enjoy it. So yeah, that's neat. So there we go. So there's that. I guess I could show you the whole thing. 1 second. Let me grab it. So this is my other ambitious base, but I kind of stalled out on it because I realized I was dissatisfied with the way the top was coming. It will be gone back to, because I do want to. I've been just thinking about it. Like, I keep it on my desk, and so I can kind of think about it. But I want to do something really cool and elaborate coming off the top here, and some carving up here. So I've got kind of a panel that I made out of wood putty to start that with, to come off of that area and kind of go over like it was a relief sculpture or something that got, kind of broken off. I think I need to raise it up just a little bit to center it on that area. But so I've got that to plug in, and this is a little uneven, so I kind of want to redo it. And I've just been thinking about like how I want to light the piece. That's what's kind of stalled me out. Now the bottom is like this. So it's kind of like it's broken off. Like part of the room is like been ruined and is just like, you know, open to the elements and going down the mountainside. And the model that goes on it is this one from Reaper, which a lot of you know. Let me see if I can zoom out even more. Yeah, I can. Good. So Frost Giant Queen goes on there. So she is standing at the edge of the precipice looking down on the puny humans who ruined her home and vowing vengeance, pretty much. So, hey, Flint Clay. I'm showing people, I was doing a base for a giant paladin that I have, or a giant Valkyrie, but I went aside to show people another base that I was working on. But yeah, mostly what I'm worried about right now is how to light it. Like, I almost need a big brazier that comes out from here, so I've been kind of just thinking about how to do that. And also thinking about if I want to do firelight, or if I just want to do kind of a pale wintry daylight for her. You know, it could be either way. So that's kind of paused me on this project. The other, the Valkyrie project, though, that we'll now go back to, I've got a very clear concept of the lighting and color for that. So usually when that happens, there's very little to hold me back from working on a piece. Sweet, stay. Okay, yay. So now we can go back to butchering cork. No. Let me put this over there. Trying to keep all my projects together. Alrighty, so let's see here. So I've got that kind of figured out. I've been cutting away some cork. I can go and play with that later. I can make steps for a waterfall up here. I need to cut that notch out. That's going to take a little more time, so I don't think I'll bore you guys with that on camera. But I can, since I know I'm doing a notch there, I can start to disfigure the cork up here. So let's get a little closer. So what I'm doing, actually, Flint, if you're still here, let me just give you, since you came in later, got this giant horse and my Valkyrie. She's got wings, too, that come off her back and stuff, and a big cape. But I'm having her kind of swooping in and landing on this area, and down here below in a pool, below a little waterfall, is going to be a dead Viking. And so she's coming to carry his soul off to Valhalla. So that's what we are working on. This project is going to take forever, but... that's what I'm working on. She's a gigantic 54 millimeter model. She's solid white metal. So she is sturdy, shall we say. Chonk. Alrighty. So I want a waterfall to be coming down through here. And I also want kind of some, some protrusions and stuff, like rocks that'll interrupt and kind of split the stream of the waterfall down on either side of the dead guy who's going to be lying down here in the pool. So let's look at that with an eye toward this. And maybe let's also kind of tilt these layers a little bit so that they're a little off, right? So let's see. So here I have, if I tilt this a little bit more, got one of them tilted that way, one of them tilted that way. So now I've got kind of, it's hard to see with all the white up here. Let me see if I can move this. Yeah, there you go. So I've got kind of a zigzag now, where this is at this angle, this next layer is at this angle, this next layer is a little bit oblique. So it's not a straight square on presentation anymore. And remember, we want that. We want more dynamic shapes in this. So any way that I can skew the presentation so that the model isn't straight on to the viewer, and so, you're not making a lot of, thanks. I think it's badass too. So yeah, any way I can kind of make this base so it's not quite as straightforward is a good idea. So now I can put this back up here, and I can use this. I know I'm going to cut this out so the water can start to come down. So I want to just make a break here on either side to mark where my water is going to come down. Kind of get it cut out. This is cork, so it's really soft and easy to work. Just kind of make gouges, and then I can use my knife to gouge out giant chunks. Chunk, 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 chunk. All right. Like I said, when you're afraid of doing it wrong, just jump ahead and do it, because otherwise you won't do it. Once you start ripping things up and like breaking things, then you could be like, oh, okay, well, I may as well continue. I like to use a hobby knife for this stage. It just cuts through the cork really well, and I can also go more finesse with it. I'm gonna actually take this off so you guys can see this a little better. Now that I've got the placement of that initial spout, I am going to essentially hollow out this area here a little bit, because this is where the water is going to start to come down. So I want a fairly dramatic first stream to my waterfall at the top here. Ah! Now I blew a bunch of cork onto the floor. Oops. Vacuum time. All right. Oh, we've got a little piece of cork underneath. There we go. All right. And I don't have to be real precise with this. I can be rough because I can always take all these pieces of cork that I'm ripping off and replace them, or fill it in with wood putty when we get to the point of building the actual shapes. Right now we just want, what we're doing right now is building negative shapes, you may have noticed. And by negative shapes, I mean, you know, the spaces that are around the shapes. Because we want that. Let's see here. You are going down. There we go. I could even use my hands for some of this, or fingernails. So I want a notch like that to start with. And then we kind of want it to be in steps, right? So it goes from here to here to here. He's sitting up at the bottom. Let's clear off the bottom of our... This piece of plastic art at the bottom is so that I have a firm base for everything to sit on that's flat on the bottom, because when I want to put it on a display plinth, I'm going to want it to sit on that plinth very nicely. But I can be a little bit off center now. I need to look at my angles. And I can make it a little bit different. So I could even put him a little off center. And to know what position I want Mr. Viking in, I really have to look at where my Valkyrie's going to be. So come here, Valkyrie. And I know that she's going to be, let's get up at top there. So she's going to be up here, right over the top of that waterfall, kind of rearing up, ready to take his soul. And she's going to be turned slightly. I'm going to have this tree. Remember, this tree comes in here. My trees are little resin trees. They're easy. They're how I'm cutting time. I'm not building everything from scratch. So she's going to be on a stone or across the bank. I haven't decided. This tree goes over here. Maybe a little bit further back. I might have to take even more of the back of this off. But I don't. I've got to be careful because she's got wings coming out and I don't want them to hit this tree. So this tree may actually need to be back there. So she's going to be about here. So the horse is going to be tilted a little bit toward this side, right? Like back this way. So this way. And that means that putting the Viking slightly off center on this side is even better, because then it looks like she's protecting him, right? Because he'll be down here leaning up against the bank of this waterfall, you know, dying, essentially gasping out his last breath. And she's pretty much threatening his opponent, who's just killed him pretty much, and telling them to stay away because she's taking him to Valhalla. So, yeah, the chunky cork is really nice. I got it in like 4 sheets. I want to say from Hobby Lobby or Michael's eons ago. I think it's 1/4 inch cork. You can also use the thinner stuff, but actually I just realized one cork type that's thicker is like trivets, you know, those round cork things that you put underneath hot pots to keep them from burning counters and tabletops. We have some cheap cork ones, and they are as thick as this. They're not quite as chunky, but they could still be worked with like this. They would still be a good cheap way to bulk up big pieces of terrain, which is how they're, you know, how I tend to use them. What type of cork? Yeah, I wish I even had the packaging still, but it was like cork sheets, and I got it Hobby Lobby or Michael's, one of those stores. I'm willing to bet Hobby Lobby just because they have a bit more of this sort of thing. But if you look at cork sheets, let me see how wide they are so that I can give you a measurement, and maybe Google will reward us with actually bringing up a product of some sort. Let me see. Where's my ruler? These are cork sheets that are, looks like about 1 centimeter roughly, or yeah, it's like 5/8 around that, or a quarter inch actually, 1/4 inch. Almost no, it is 5/8 or 6/8. Or sorry, let me look. It's that. Math is hard for me today. So there's a 1/4. Yeah. So it's like that. So 1 and a half is a 1/4. I always lose track of these things. Yeah, I guess it is 6/8, which would be 3/4. But that's, yeah, around that. So if you type in stuff like 1/4 inch or 5/8 inch, or not 5/8. It would be less, like 3/8 inch. Yeah, 3/8. Thank you, Gergie. Math is hard for me right now. I got sleep last night, but I didn't get amazing sleep last night. All right, so I just realized, because, obviousness, that if I stagger the cork like this, the edge of this cork thing actually is a good disguiser for the fact that he doesn't have a butt. So really, I just need to sculpt like the bottom part of that goes like between the legs and the cork right here, and I could like disguise it just by leaning him up against here and use part of this for his butt. I do need him leaning though, so maybe I will have to just sculpt something really quick. Let me see. I want him leaning a little bit back, so he'll have to go kind of like that. So yeah, I'll have to prop him up with something. So I definitely don't. I don't want him lying down. I do want him sitting up because he's like trying still to get back on his feet because he's a valiant Viking. Otherwise, he wouldn't be taken to Valhalla. But I do need him tilted back just a little bit, probably, since he's definitely dying. So yeah, I think I will put the Viking off center then, which actually means that I can get rid of some of this and once again make an irregular shape, right? Make a more interesting shape out of it. And then when it comes to the plinth, I'll just have to like landscape that, right? If I decide what I'm going to do, or I put the plinth back a little bit and I put something, I cut this away. We'll see. I don't know. There's all sorts of ideas. I'll have to think about it. I'll have to think about how I want to do it. Because I was assuming I was going to go with a square plinth, but now I'm like, oh, if I can somehow make the front irregular, and the burl might work for me on that. So that's a hard call. We'll see. There's so much you can't decide this early. There's so much that's going to develop as you keep chunking away at your project and figuring out what's where, right? So right now I can see that this would be a good place. Like, I kind of want him like have a kind of a earth projection or a root or something that he's leaning back against. But this whole area here can get chunked out for waterfall. So I know that I want to do that. So let's just chunk some parts. Chunk. And what I will likely do is take some sticky tack and tack this together roughly in this configuration so that I can remember how I had things. There we go. There we go. Nice big chunk of cork came out with that. Perfect. So now we've got a nice like falling, like we could do the steps of the waterfall this way, right? You can have the water come down here, jump down here, just like you always love to see waterfalls, like kind of happy little waterfalls, just falling down in their little tiny steps. Because this is a little stream. It's a little waterfall. So this bottom part, I'm going to be a little more delicate with. But I want another notch there for the water to come down. So you can make some very natural forms with the cork. And if anybody does find this cork online, let me know. Because I have a whole nother sheet and 3/4. But after that, I'm out. And I'll have to find an alternative. Although you can do this stuff with the tighter cork. It's worth saying. Even with this stuff, you can absolutely do it. Or do I have a sheet of that sitting around? I do somewhere. The thinner cork sheets, I have one here that I can play with. So the thinner cork sheets, you're doing the same thing. You're using, in this case, a knife really works well, but you're still like plucking away at it. And you can cut out big chunks of it, or you can keep scraping away at it, depending on what you need. It isn't quite as chunky, no, but you can create similar effects with it, just building it up. 3/8 inch is what I've got here. And of course, this is more like, who knows, math is hard, says Anne, who has had trouble all day with this sort of thing. It's a tiny little bit, less than 1/4 inch. But yeah, so the thin cork can work the same way. You might, to get big chunks out of it, you may have to do cuts. But building this stuff up in layers, it works just fine also. So But yeah, hopefully, if I ever see, if like we ever are able to go to stores again and I ever spot this stuff, I'll let you guys know where it is. Because it is, the big chunks are really useful. They're really useful to make rocks with and just to generally have keeping around. I usually throw out the really tiny little bits that I have left over, but I keep some of the small bits, like this guy, that are flat on one side, can be really good rocks for 28mm bases. So like, let's take our Wraith. So let's take our Haunted Glowing Wraith, right? So if I wanted to put her in a graveyard... Oh, thanks, Neo10 Gaming. So if I wanted to put her in a graveyard and I wanted to put some stones around her, I could probably find room on your average 28mm base. She's got kind of this big tomb stone thing going on. But it is small enough to fit on her base if I wanted to put another stone on there. Right, so these little tiny bits of cork, and of course that's even easier when you're working with the small cork, like these guys. So this compact cork you can also make really useful stones out of. Just leave one side of it flat and get irregular on the other side, and you can make some very realistic rocks to go on a base. Actually, I can show you guys another project that I did that on real quick. Let me see. Where is she? There she is. As I'm just whipping out all my projects here. So I made this base just as a demo for somebody who I was mentoring. So this wolf girl is on a base that's these rocks are made of cork. So they're just different sizes and different heights. See, I kept a more cylindrical one near the back, and I have some down low ones, and then I've got some very low grit ones. So like these little pebbles down here. Oh, aha! Perfect. Real Chibi, you are a goddess. You are awesome. I am going to write that down so I can look it up, and I'm going to go to my Patreon Discord after this, and I'm going to link it for you guys. Or Chibi, if you would link it on the Patreon, that would be even better. But I'm going to make a note. Yes, chunky, dark color. Perfect. Quartet 12 by... And they are 12 by 12. Quartet 12 by 12 inch 3/8 bulletin board tiles. They found my dark cork, David. Chibi did. She's awesome. So if you want sheets of it, you like the chunky cork, we can find it.
Yeah, I would take some.
Yeah. Awesome. It's great for diorama bases. Okay, I've made a note of it so I can reference that in the future when people ask. Thank you so much, Chibi, for looking that up. I've been like, this is ages. I just keep forgetting to like go and search for it. And hey, Hootie Host, how's it going? Or Hootie Hoot. Everybody's good. We're getting to the end of the stream. I was talking about cork and its uses, and Real Chibi Army just totally went out and hunted it down and posted up what it is so everybody can go find it. It's a really thick, nice cork. But anyway, I was just showing them the base on this wolf girl. Oh, okay. LinkedIn Supplies Talk. Thank you. Oh, yeah. I used to be a Google girl, too. I love getting really fancy with Google and getting the searches to find exactly what I need. It's so gratifying. Is there a name for that, David? When you just have Google Foo, like you know exactly what keywords to plug into the search engine to magically find whatever you want?
I think Google Foo is...
Google Foo is actually the term? Yeah.
The term.
Okay. You work at Google, so you would know. I didn't know if Google actually had a word for like kung fu with its search engine.
Yeah, Google Foo that's the term I always heard.
All right.
Before I worked at Google.
All right. Yeah, pine bark can also be. I haven't worked with it, Neo10, but I bet the bark. It makes sense that bark would also be pretty easy to carve, break, work with. And it would have the advantage of not being as soft, right? Because cork is very soft. It's very soft and spongy. It's kind of what it is, right? But a lot of bark will be a little bit softer, but still more firm than this. So it'd still be easier to drill into, but probably would give you a little bit of a firm hold on whatever model that you're trying to like pin into it, for example. Google Foo. Hey, thanks. Thanks, Hootie Hoot. Thank you very much. Thank you for the follow. This stream should get us Twitch affiliate. Like, I've put in my 500 hours. This is my 7th day. So, crossing fingers that Google will pop me an email in the next 2 days saying, welcome to being an affiliate. Yay! Twitch, sorry. It's that kind of day. I need to wake up. Okay, cool. Well, $13 for 4 big sheets like that, I'd pay that. I mean, it takes a long time to go through it, unless you build a lot of dioramas. And even then, even if you build a lot of dioramas, like I'm only using probably a quarter of a sheet to do this, and this is a big diorama. So, tea, Mighty Garen. I can't do coffee. Can't do coffee. Too acidic for me. The guts don't like it. Alrighty. But yes, I'll have to get something mildly caffeinated after stream, since I have to make supper still. All right, but yeah, so cork, you can dress it up, and since it has a flat side, you can use it to do some nice landscaping. This is the simplest of landscaping. I mean, it's really just cork to give you some rocks and then some sand texture and a little bit of static grass here and there. But it makes for a nice, simple base. So it's an easy base. Alrighty. Well, I got 10 more minutes. What can I do? I think I should think about making this more regular. It's just a question of how much am I going to take away versus how much am I going to add. Because, I could take too much away and then have to add stuff. Or I could take a minimal amount away and just add more. And with the flat edges here aren't too bad, in my opinion, because that means that I can take a sheet of cork and kind of marry up these. Like if I was going to build the banks up around him, I could take that flat edge and press it up against these, and it would work, right, to build out more of a crescent that he's sitting in. So I could use the fact that this has a flat edge, but I definitely want the waterfall coming down through this area. So, and I don't want to get my waterfall too big, because again, the point of the piece isn't the waterfall. The reason that I want the waterfall, and water flow in general, is just because I have found that in dioramas especially, water always suggests motion, right? So when you can add a little bit of water to a piece where it makes sense, you can make a more dynamic, you can essentially add a different dynamic to your scene. And it also, hey Lorzel, thank you for the follow. Thanks. And what it also does is it gives you a different sort of thing on your base, right? So instead of it just being rocks and dirt, or instead of it just being grass and, trees, it is then water. So it gives you a different element that adds something. It gives you a sense of place. Like, you don't want this to be just, any place. You want this to be like the secret little creek and spring where the Valkyrie comes down and saved this guy's life, and took this guy to Valhalla. Like, it's going to be like a blessed spring after this, or a blessed waterfall. It's going to be special. So you want to build a special place for your diorama. Why would you not want to build a special place for your diorama? And with that in mind, at anything that is very unique, that adds a sense of place, helps you with your diorama. Not only does it help you just make a more interesting looking diorama, but it can help you conceptualize the diorama too, right? Like, it would be a very different piece if this was a ring of standing stones, right? So if I had created a big Celtic stone, and maybe a graveyard or something like that, or an altar, it would give it a whole different character. So the more you can do to think about, the more unique pieces that you can add to your diorama, the more of a story you can build in your head. And that helps you when you're building out your base and adding tiny details, because you'll be able to refer to that story. And then when you're even thinking of colors that might inform your story too, you're going to pick a very different color scheme, for something that's got like a fire pit that's, things that are catching on fire versus the peaceful waterfall in the dark forest. So all of these things they all tie together. So as you're working with this sort of thing, think about what sort of features, whether it's, ferns or, other like crazy plants, or if it's, dead trees or, a lot of twigs. Like I brought this up before, but Woodland Scenics does a thing called deadfall, which is pretty much twigs that are all deloused and everything for you. So I'm also probably going to end up using some of these. Yeah. Oh, sorry. Hootie Hoot, I missed your question. Yeah, these are resin trees. They're actually, I've had them for years. They're from an old historical model manufacturer, this. And they're pretty much, like, you could use them for almost any scale. They would be okay with a 28 millimeter model. I think they really excel at 54 and 54 to 120, but I think they would work pretty well. Let's see, where's my Ghosty? So with Ghosty, they're a bit big, right? Ghosty, this is a very tall tree. But the other one is pretty small. So this tree, not too big, but they are very large at the base. So you could maybe use one as kind of a focal point. Like if you put a hangman's noose on this one, you could use it as a focal point in a diorama with 2 figures or more. And that would work. So that's what these are. They're kind of my only shortcuts for this. Because I realized I didn't want to sculpt trees, but I wanted her to be in a forest. So I am totally shortcutting by using resin trees. And I had a dead one around here somewhere that I've totally misplaced, and it's really annoying me. It's probably on the floor somewhere with my luck. But yeah, so there we go. Let's get her out of here. We're almost at the end. Yeah, Mathophile, I really decided that I wanted to kind of set up, let me see if I can tilt this. Set up the base for Miss Valkyrie. Oh, thanks, Brush for Hire, and thanks for hosting me. So yeah, so we're setting up our Valkyrie, our giant horse here. Got to figure out how everything is going together. I want to have the horse kind of oblique on here, right over the Viking, who's going to be dying, and then the Valkyrie goes on top of the horse. So yeah, I decided I really needed to start kind of seeing the diorama in my head. Hey, Brush for Hire. Thank you. Thanks for the compliment. Yeah, I'm just hacking out shapes at this point. You know that when you're starting with a diorama base and you're just like, you kind of have it in your head, but you won't be able to really envision it until you have it down, right? Until you have the basic shapes. So now I feel a lot better about continuing to work on her and the conversion that I'm doing on her, because I've got at least the basics of a base starting, right? So now anytime I want to, I can take some putty or take some time and continue building this out until it makes sense to me, until it's what I was looking for. So this is what we are trying to do. Yeah, I decided I have a lot of pinning to do on this model, so that I can get her primed, and because this is just her skin tone was for a video I did for my Patreon, so she will be primed over. I know it's counterintuitive for many of you. Please don't hate me too much. All right. Well, actually that was it. But yeah, so yeah, we still have to give her shield. I have to sculpt straps. I took a shield from another model to give her a shield. So yeah, it's about time for me to wrap it up, guys. But I think I'm actually really happy that I got this blocked in, because now I have something that I can work with. Now I feel like I know where I'm going, at least. And so now every time I feel like it, I can just take a little time and take away a little bit more, add a little bit more, until I have a really cool organic shape that is... yeah, I assure you I know what you're doing and what I'm doing. Yes, it's all in my head. It just needs to come out. So yeah, so now it's just, it should be fun. It should be fun and cool. Yeah, thanks for the link there, Gergie, for my Patreon. So if there's any new people watching, I do have a Patreon. I work for Reaper. I do streams in the morning on Reaper Miniatures Twitch, which is twitch.tv/Reaper Miniatures. Reaper like a Grim Reaper. And, I'm over there 11:30 Central every weekday, sorry. And then this is my own little private stream where I work on big projects that aren't necessarily Reaper. So thank you. Welcome. Thank you for all my regulars who turned out today. I see that we got over 40 viewers, and that's super fantastic. That makes me super happy. Hopefully Twitch is happy too and gives us affiliate. I'm like just going to be staring at my Gmail waiting for the email.
You should wait at least like a couple days.
That's what they said one day. Somebody who was on the other day who got affiliate said one day, but I'm assuming 2 days at least. So I'll be waiting with bated breath. But yeah, thanks for tuning in, guys. After we get affiliate, I'll at least do a Wednesday stream. I don't know, and maybe some ninja streams here and there. But thank you for tuning in, and yeah, yes, fingers crossed I didn't turn out fingers crossed I didn't count wrong. I should go back and count and make sure that I've done my 7 days in the 30-day period. Yes, exactly. So super. Yeah, I want emotes and I want, subs and stuff. So I want to enable all that stuff. But yeah, now I've made a complete mess. So now I'll spend the rest of the afternoon cleaning up my mess. Thank you all. Yeah, I want a Kiri emote for my doggy, and I need a blurf emote for when I make a mistake, which is often. All right, you guys. Well, you have a fantastic Wednesday afternoon, and I will see you around. I'll see some of you on the Reaper Miniatures Twitch stream tomorrow morning. All right, have a great one.